Good evening, race fans, and welcome back to season number 14 of the Attrition Sim Race Campus Oval Series. And boy, howdy, y'all do not know how happy I am to say that, race fans. Of course, took the past couple weeks off for the off-season first round of season 14 here on the books tonight. It is the biggest format change that the league has seen in its history. And along with that, we have the biggest field of drivers the league has ever seen. Currently 27 drivers registered for tonight's event. 22 have turned a qualifying lap so far here this evening. Still a little bit of time left before that actually gets ended up here and we start going racing here. Of course, at Daytona for the second time here in the Oval Series, it was the opening race last season in the ARCA car. That race was won by Garrett Hess, who then proceeded to use that momentum to go home and take the championship for season number 13. Of course, 21st time this track has been visited by the league itself, back when the Road Series was a thing here in ASRC. Of course, this league started all the way back in 2017 as a Road Series before the Oval Series began in 2021. 21 times that the league has been here, only twice on the Oval. 31-degree banking in the corners, and of course, the real-life race that we are following here was won by Michael Waltrip here in season number 14, and technically 14 through 16 here. I'll have to explain the points format here a little bit later on. But the next couple of seasons are all going to be following the Real World 2003 NASCAR schedule. And of course, that includes everything all the way down to the weather. So the weather we have right now matches the weather that was recorded during the Real World 2003 Daytona 500. That said, drivers are making their way down to the starting grid, so how about we take a look down there and see how things shake up here this evening for, again, the biggest race in league history. Well, I guess more specifically in Oval Series history. It's not really fair for me to say league history there. Starting off on the pole of this one here this evening, that's going to be the number 93 League Administrator Jason Gardner, the man who puts most of the effort in to make all this happen, starting out on the pole in that number 93 for our first race of the season. Starting his outside in that number 87 machine, that's a driver we have not seen since he took home the championship all the way back in, I believe, season number 7. That is going to be the 87 of Coy Hazaloo in the Hazaloo Racing entry. Back in position number 3, the 09 machine. That's just the Red Eye Racing car back there. It's a little hard to see down behind our broadcast graphics. Benjamin Hurst, another driver that has taken home a championship here in the ASRC Oval Series, and a driver we have not seen out here in a very, very long time. So very exciting to see some of these veteran drivers that have retired from the league coming back to take on this new challenge that we're presenting to them here with this dramatic reformatting of the league. Starting his outside, though, in the number 16, that's going to be Carl Felver in the Me entry, of course, that being a reference to Talladega Nights there for the number 4 machine. Followed back in 5th, that's going to be the 01 of Kevin West, rookie driver making his debut start here in the Trailer Park Dude entry, driver out of Canton, Georgia. Back in position number 6, that's going to be the 76 of Derek Murphy, still unsponsored, still cursed to start in 6th or 7th, regardless of how big our field is. That's going to be Mr. Derek Murphy rolling off position number 6. 7th place going to be going back to the SM Racing Products driver of Garrett Streets. That is last season's champion back there in position number 7, followed by his teammate in the 74, the other half of the SM Racing Products too. That's going to be Jeremy Mario back in position number 8. 9th place going to go back to the 67 of Will Reichard, rookie driver in the Delta Airlines entry, followed by Sam Swoop in the 50, another rookie driver making their debut here this evening in the SM Racing Products entry. That's going to be Daniel Wiles in the 17, another rookie driver back here starting in 11th, followed by Tyler Aspinall in the 29, made his debut last season in the Giant Eagle entry, seeing what he can do here in season number 14. That's going to be the number 3 of Mike Moultrie Jr. back in 13th, followed by the Canadian driver of Michael Sparks in the Mooselander Racing 42 back in 14th, excuse me. Back in 15th is going to be the 96 of Charles Jettings, driver out of South Carolina, followed by the 40 of David Suiter, another driver we've not seen since season 7 or 8, making his return here. That's going to be rookie driver Poncho McDowell in the 69 back in 17th, followed by Brandon Feeney in the 38 back in 18th. 19th to the 10 of Nick Fuller, followed by Christopher Puff in the 20th, back in 20th. 21st to Daniel Sparks in the 4, followed by the CZ Robotics 24 of Corey Logan, fastest driver in practice, back in 22nd. 23rd going to be going back to Matt Sisler, followed by Nico Morelli in 24th. Johnny Bell in the 27, back in 25th. That's going to be Joshua Rudolph in the 188, and Brandon Lenz in the 196, rounding out the tail end of this 27 car field here this evening. Pace car is off. This is going to be one heck of a show here at Daytona. Green flag up in the air. 50 laps, the distance here this evening, a little bit shorter than the previous race here. That was a 200-mile race. Here only for 125 miles instead this time around. Running quarter distance for basically all of the races from the 2003 NASCAR schedule. Right now our front low side by side is Jason Gardner and Coy Haslu. Carl Felber getting up there, giving the push to that number 87 machine as we're fanning it out nearly 3 wide, a little bit further back in the pack. Drivers kind of using every single line they can try to work with to get a little bit extra momentum going here in the early goings of this thing. Then further back in the field, it is starting to get a little bit more orderly. We don't see drivers 3 and 4 wide back there anymore. And it looks like right now the main goal for all these drivers is to get on down to the low line, try and make the bottom of the track work for them. We do see 1 or 2 drivers up there on the high line, like that number. Who was that we saw up there? Not 100% sure. There's so many new drivers out here in the field, I'm not entirely sure who is who. Looks like that is Will Reichard up there in the number 67 machine. You also see that 95 up there trying to make the high line work. That is David Sluter. And Sluter's number on the timing and scoring is the 40, but he's a 95 out on the track. Just behind him, Brandon Feeney. Feeney up +8 from where he qualified right now. The biggest mover so far here in tonight's event in that number 38 machine. Driver of the Liquid Molly entry out of Canada. Runner-up in the championship 2 seasons ago. Back when we first used the ARCA car. Now running a bit of a part-time schedule here in the league. So far running back in the 11th position. He just up the fastest lap turned so far here in today's event. Up at the front though, nose to tail for the lead, Coy Haslu. Carl Felver up at the front. Jason Gardner still up there as well. Then we start to see 2x2. Benjamin Harsh, Kevin West, Derek Murphy up there as well. Jeremy Morrow, and a couple other familiar names up there. Garrett Streets in the top 10. David Sluter up there as well. The outside line is looking like it is starting to get a little bit of energy to play with here. Of course, we are only in lap 4 of this 50-lap event. These laps turning by roughly 45 seconds or so in length. As we see a big move, big block up to the high line. That was Carl Felver going up there along with the 87 of Coy Haslu. That's going to let Jason Gardner be the leader of the bottom row, but he's pulling a little bit far ahead from the rest of that help. I don't think it's going to be enough to be able to clear Haslu and get up there to the race lead. But still in the early goings of this thing, you really don't need to be jockeying for position all that strongly here. At least in the early goings of things, we know how Daytona goes. You can have the big one without too much difficulty. Of course, like I said, coming into this event, we are using the real-world recorded weather data from each real-life event corresponding to the schedule here on iRacing. In real life, Michael Waltrip won this race on a rainout. Of course, iRacing did get the rain update here just a couple of days ago with Tempest. Tempest, of course, not enabled for ovals, so we don't have to worry about this race getting rained out, but I'll definitely be curious to see how that weather shakes out for these drivers. I'd imagine we're going to see it get pretty darn overcast here, even if there isn't any moisture out on the track. But cooler temperatures allow for higher speeds. Higher speeds means more drama, and you know how super speedways tend to go. One little slip up and this whole field might just get knocked out of this race. Currently, it's still Coy Houseloo and Carl Felver making that high line really work for him. Kevin West has moved his way up to the front of the bottom line, though, now getting the push from Jason Gardner here, just behind the 09 of Benjamin Hurst. Benjamin took home the championship back in season number 2 in the street stock. Great to see him out here competing again in that 09 iRacing machine. Seeing what he can do here. Lots of new faces that were not here in the league back when Hurst was running. We have one car up in the outside wall. That looked like that was Carl Felver in the knee entry. Now sinking like a brick. He's not going to be getting any help in that third lane. Falling all the way back to the 11th position. Still scraping out the outside wall just a little bit. Finding himself all the way back to Brandon Feeney now. And just like that, all of the momentum in the outside line has gotten a little bit more complicated here as we see drivers bobbing and weaving a little bit, getting a little bit loose coming out of 4, going under the yellow line just a little bit here. But it looks like everyone's keeping it A-okay for right now. Still 2 neat and tidy rows up at the front, a little bit further back in the middle pack. It's a little bit jumbled out as it's kind of everyone on their own here. And then even further back in the field, we actually have a little bit of a separate pack forming of people all by themselves. That's Daniel Wells, Mike Moultrie Jr. And we have a caution flag out on the speedway. It is the big one here at Daytona. I'll tell you what, race fans, I don't even entirely want to know what happened there or how Brandon Feeney is now nearly up at the front of the field. But give it up for a little bit of drama here, lap 9. See if we can't take a look back, figure out what all went down here, because that looked a little bit sudden. We already have cars all over the place here, so let's go back a little bit further. Try and figure out what the deal is here. And it's looking like it might be up near the front of the field where everything went wrong. Currently looking up at the 67 of Will Reichard running side by side. Looks like the 09 of Benjamin Harsty just in front of him, and looks like a little bit of a connection problem kind of spooked everyone into checking up, and then everything else just went absolutely crazy there. For a second, I thought that was a connection issue just on my end, but seeing how much drama just went down and sending cars all over the field, we might not even be able to get a replay of that. Let's see if we can't try and find someone up here. We're going a little bit further back here. So we see the 78 having a bit of a connection issue, and then everyone just kind of comes piling in, and it looks like most of the field is actually having server issues here. So this might actually be something on iRacing's end and not the fault of any individual driver. That's really bizarre to see here. I don't think I've ever quite seen an incident like that here on the iRacing.com platform. It's normal for 1 or 2 drivers to have a little bit of a connection issue and have things freak out, but to have a solid 15 people all have connection issues at the same time is kind of unheard of. Right now we have, looks like 6 cars out on the track right now. Kevin West, Jason Gardner, Benjamin Harsty, Brandon Feeney, Tyler Aspinall, Will Reichard, Sam Swoop, and Brendan Lenz still out here on the track. Everyone else coming down pit lane here on lap number 9. Some for damage, some it looks like a little bit more like a scheduled stop, but that was a really bizarre caution. While the field's all getting themselves sorted out here, let's take a jump back, see if we can't maybe try and figure out what the deal is. I'm still pretty stumped on that caution. Like, obviously we saw it kind of started up with Derek Murphy. Let's go back here, try and get another view of things if we can. Nope, not letting us. All right, let's jump a little bit further back. And maybe, you know what, let's ride on board with a driver a little bit further down in the incident here. Let's go on board with the number 4 machine of Mr. Daniel Sparks and see what he saw going into that incident. It really is seeming like it just kind of started with a connection issue up at the front, and everyone kind of freaked out and slammed on the brakes, and whole rest of the field, no one could manage to actually get their cars stopped before coming into that incident. Call it a little bit of ARCA brakes, if you will, but we still have a decent number of cars still out here on the track. And the lights are out on the iRacing.com pace car, so we will be going green flag racing once again this time by. And hopefully, we'll be free from any sort of potential drama by whatever just brought that incident out. Because again, that was just a really bizarre server issue, it seemed like. Regardless, though, your front row here, Kevin West, Jason Gardner, Benjamin Harsty, Brandon Feeney, Tyler Aspinall, Will Reichard, Johnny Bell, Sam Swope, Carl Felver, Matt Sisler, your top 10 also on the lead lap. Then it looks like it is Charles Jettings, Nick Fuller, Joshua Rudolph, and Brandon Lenz still out here on the field. Looking around the track, it seems like there might still be a little bit of confusion as to where drivers are being scored. It's sort of getting sorted out now, but it's still kind of just flickering drivers back and forth on the timing and scoring, even though they're not actually passing each other. So we're going to wait for it to go green flag racing here, and hopefully that will straighten things out just a little bit here. 10 laps in the books, going to be 11 laps once we cross the line. Still just shy of 40 to go here at Daytona for the opening round of season number 14 here in this Gen 4 car. Pace car's off, green flag up in the air once again here at Daytona. Rising up through the gears, getting things rolling. Everyone playing nice with each other so far. We say that we have someone ducked down. Looks like that was the 67 of Will Reichard deciding to move down to the low line, and immediately we see Jason Gardner, Brandon Feeney hung out to dry here a little bit. Not quite getting the help they need as we have a car off the track back in the back. Not quite sure what that was back there. Maybe Joshua Rudolph, maybe Brandon Lenz. Not 100% sure there, but it looks like maybe still a little bit of server issues freaking out the timing and scoring here. It's not really sure what all is going on, but it's Kevin West right now leading the field down in that 01 machine, followed by Benjamin Harsty in the 09 just behind. Jason Gardner, Tyler Aspinall, Brandon Feeney all up on the outside line here. Johnny Bell trying to make the outside line work as well in that 27 machine. And I'll tell you what, Johnny Bell, out of every single driver here in this field, that 27 machine was probably the one we were least expecting to see make an appearance here this evening. Johnny Bell has been gone without a trace for a little while now and didn't make any sort of announcement that he was going to be returning to the series. He just showed up here this evening. Everyone saw his name on the sign-up sheet and were collectively bewildered that he was making his grand appearance driver out of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Great to see him back out here on the track, currently up plus 18 right now after all that chaos, as we have Brandon Feeney scraping against the outside wall, nearly losing it there in that Liqui-Moly 38, but managing to keep it pointed in the right direction. I'm sure a little bit that was a bit of a code brown for the driver with that 27 machine, but hey, no home, no foul. Still a long way left to go here, and if you're long, you're keeping the car pointed in the right direction. After that incident we had before, I think that's kind of really all we need to be concerned about right now. We have a bit of movement going on up at the front. Benjamin Harsty, a big wiggle coming out of turn number 4. Keeping it right on the bumper of that 01 machine of Kevin West. looking a-okay right now, but tell you what, these Gen 4 cars, depending on the track, about 100 more horsepower than the ARCA Menards cars that they were using last season. Whereas here on iRacing, the Gen 4 car uses the exact same body as the ARCA car, which is not 100% accurate. I mean, it is on a technicality, but it's the closest thing we got, and that's what we're using here to recreate this 2003 NASCAR racing season. Just looking around the field, everyone who was involved in that instance having a pretty dang good time. Johnny Bell up plus 14, Brandon Feeney plus 8, Nick Fuller plus 10, Matt Sisler back there up plus 16 in at that number 66 machine. A couple of drivers being scored as out of the race. Looks like Joshua Rudolph, Coy Hasselum, Michael Sparks, Daniel Sparks, Nico Morelli. Looks like they have all retired here from this evening's event. Does look like there's a car exiting pit lane up in front of the lap traffic, and they are way off the pace. That was scary to see. Who was that? That was the CZ Robotics 24 of Corey Logan. Looking like they're trying to bring it back around to pit lane, but they are way off the pace here in that 24 machine. Not quite sure what the deal is there that has that 24 going so slow here. That's a little bit bizarre to see. But the caution flag isn't being thrown one way or another. We're still keeping this thing green flag racing. And I guess as long as they keep it below the apron, it should be okay. Of course, that should is the big keyword there. Anything could go wrong here at Daytona. But for right now, race control is saying that it's fine to have that slow car on the track as long as they're down below the apron. Your top 5 in the field here, pretty much single filing out. It's going to be the 66 of Matt Sisler side by side with Jason Gardner, who is leading that outside low. Gardner, Bell, and Feeney. The 3 drivers who tried to make the outside line work on this restart, pretty much the only 3 that have made any attempt to stay up there. And how well it's working for them is a little bit questionable. We have some ebbs and flows up there. Sometimes they make some ground, sometimes they don't. Of course, Gardner was the fastest driver here in practice in that number 93 machine. No, excuse me, fastest car in qualifying is Corey Logan, that car that was off the pace we saw just a moment ago. That was the driver fastest in practice. Unfortunately, we see them currently running back in the 24th position in that 24 car right now. But hey, still 35 more races to go. And I guess I should also go ahead and explain the little bit of difference in scoring we have here this season. Of course, the points format will be very closely following the 2003 NASCAR points format with a little bit changes. There are still the bonus points for having clean, incident-free races. But the other thing is that we basically have 2 different championships going on here at the same time. So we will be crowning a season champion every 12 weeks, as the league has always done since its inception, following the iRacing.com official calendar, where a season is only 12 weeks. But also at the end of this 36-week period, where we follow the real-world NASCAR schedule, we will crown one overall champion for those 36 races. So basically, we're going to be crowning a more traditional ASRC champion every 12 weeks, and then at the end of this whole period, there will be one overall champion for those 3 smaller seasons. It's a little bit weird, a little bit convoluted, but we're going to make it work here as ASRC tries their biggest format change in league history, and I'll tell you what, it drew 27 cars out to the crowd, so that in itself is a pretty dang exciting thing to see. The outside line is making some moves, though. Jason Gardner's worked his way up to 3rd, just behind Brandon Feeney, up in 5th. They are slowly but surely making their way up to the front of this field here. A little bit of a wiggle out of that 29 machine of Tyler Aspinall. We have another car slow down the apron. This looks like someone exiting pit lane. I believe that was the 42 of Michael Sparks, I want to say. No, it was not. Michael Sparks is currently running back here in the 22nd position with Coy Hasselum, Joshua Rudolph, Brandon Lenz, and Derek Murphy, all in their own little separate pack from the lead pack of the field here. I'm not quite sure who we saw coming out of pit exit then, but it was not the drivers we thought it was. These 5 drivers currently looking like they're about 20 seconds back from the main pack here at the front of the field, so they've got some work to do to catch up, or at least they got to wait for a caution flag to come out. Out the front, though, that's where all the drama is going on here. 22 laps so far complete, closing in on the halfway point slowly but surely. And drivers are maybe starting to get a little bit impatient with each other here. Of course, another big thing to note here on the iRacing.com platform, some tracks have multiple different variations from the different time periods where they scan. So, of course, here in this case, we have a modern, I believe it was scanned in 2022 version of Daytona, but not what we're using here tonight. Here we are at the oldest one we could get our hands on. This is the 2008 scan of Daytona. Not quite 2003, but it's the closest we could get. And I'll tell you what, Daytona back in the early 2000s was substantially bumpier than it was today. Let's go ahead and ride on board with our current race leader of Kevin West and get a bit of an idea of just how bumpy it is out here on the speedway. Particularly there in the corners, you can see just how bad it gets. These drivers might as well just be driving out on a gravel road and calling it a day. The way that it shakes and shudders here on this older scan of the speedway really is testing these drivers and their equipment with pretty much everything they have to throw at this speedway. And for only one caution so far, with this large crowd of drivers, again, the biggest field the league has ever seen in the past 13 seasons of competition, started back in the beginning of 2021. You have only one caution so far, is a really solid feat for these drivers. And of course, I'm going to jinx it by saying that, inevitably, as the commentator's curse tends to go, but it has just been really solid racing so far for these ASRC Oval Series drivers, as they all make, some of them at least, make their league debuts, other ones coming back to cut their teeth for another season and try and take home the championship, both for these current 12 weeks and for the overall 36-week title. Crossing the line onto the halfway point here, it's going to be the 01 of Kevin West still leading the field, as side by side for Jason Gardner and Benjamin Harsty, the outside line still has not gotten the energy they needed to actually clear the lead, but they've managed to work their way pretty much all the way up to the front. All things considered, I'm surprised we have not seen more cars try to go up to the outside line, give a little bit more momentum up there, and try and make a push to the front, try and wedge that lead out from the 01 of Kevin West, but it just has not quite come to fruition here yet. A little bit further back in the field, got Jeremy Morrow currently running back in 10th in that SM Racing Products entry, one half of the SM Racing Products crew. Of course, the S&M being for Garrett Streets, currently running back in the 21st position, and Jeremy Morrow running up in 10th. SM Racing Products been the title sponsor here of the Oval Series for over a year now, and for the 36 overall week champion, they are going to be offering a bit of a prize to the winners. There's going to be a $150 gift card to their SM Racing Products store to whoever takes home the championship, along with some discounts for the runners-up. So, well, not for the first time here in the league history, it's always exciting to see these drivers actually have prizes up for grabs here, more than just bragging rights that they are competing for here in 2024 after being a fledgling series averaging just 6 to 8 cars back in 2021. We do have a slow car up on the outside line there. That is a lap car. It looks like that is potentially Derek Murphy in that 78 machine. Yes, it is. Derek Murphy a bit off the pace here, currently running back in the 20th position, 14 spots down from where he qualified. He's going to need a caution flag to catch up to the field here at this rate, because it looks like that car is down on power, and without a drafting partner, you are just completely out of luck here. We do see another driver decide to move up to the outside line. I believe that is the 96 of Charles Jettings. I'm not 100% certain on that one. See if we can't get a better view here. It does look like that is Charles Jettings up there on the high line, but he has fallen back from the draft. And actually losing positions pretty darn steadily here. There goes Matt Sisler around him. Here comes Nick Fuller, Daniel Wiles. I don't think there's anything wrong under the hood of that number 96 machine. It looks like he's just opting to drop back to the tail end of the pack. Maybe get a little bit of breathing room to play with, or maybe he wanted to go down pit lane that time by and just wasn't able to get the clearance to do it. A little bit further back, there is still this battle going on further back in the tail end of the field, as we have Joshua Rudolph, Brandon Lenz, Coy Haslew, Michael Sparks, all back here in their own little train. Really, at this rate, there's nothing these four drivers can really do to catch back up to the draft. They've fallen down to about 30, yeah, call it about 32 seconds from the lead pack of this field. And you gotta remember, we are only setting 45-second lap times. We could see these drivers end up becoming lap traffic here in the next couple of laps if they don't get a little bit of a lucky break here with a caution. And sure enough, there is the lead pack coming up behind them, going to be there probably in the next 2 laps, and we could see things get a little bit dramatic here, race fans, as they have to navigate their first actual pack of lapped cars instead of just individual ones. That could be what completely turns the front half of this field entirely on their head here. Crossing the line, 31 laps completed, 19 left to go here at Daytona for the Daytona 125. Everyone has gone single file. They see what is waiting for them just up ahead. They want to be ready to make the overtake without any drama and hopefully avoid bringing out the second caution of the evening. See those lap cars, or at least getting ready to be lap cars, heading down to turn 4. It's getting to be about 10 seconds dividing the lead car from the cars at the tail end of the lead lap. We also have Nico Morelli, Derek Murphy out on the track. They are both currently being scored multiple laps down here. I'll tell you what though, those 4 drivers down at the tail end of things, Michael Spark, Joshua Rudolph, Coy Haslew, Brandon Lenz, they are all really hoping that the yellow flag will fly here in the next couple of seconds so that they don't have to deal with being put a lap down. Of course, there are lucky dogs should the caution flag fly, so if they do get lapped, at least one of them will have the opportunity to get back into this thing, but definitely not the situation they were hoping to find themselves in, especially not with only 18 to go here at Daytona. We do have Michael Sparks coming down pit lane though, so Michael is just going to remove himself from this situation entirely, not have to deal with the leaders coming up behind him. But the gap is certainly closing to this lap traffic. Again, everyone all electing to go single file here. Just trying to take a precaution, except for Johnny Bell. Johnny Bell's going to go to the outside, see if he can't try and make a move. He's not afraid. And he ducks back in. He changes his mind there. Now the 16 machine, Carl Felver up there, trying to see if he can't take a pick to the outside line, get around that Liquid Molly 38 of Brandon Feeney. As we see most of the field coming to pit lane under green, we have tire lockup, we have smoke, we have Brandon Feeney around. Brandon Feeney around on pit lane. The field stays green. Looks like everyone else's pit stops have come on down without incident here. And the 01 of Kevin West overshoots his pit box. That could be what cost him the lead here of this race. See if we can't real quick take a look back, see if we can figure out what caused Brandon Feeney to spin under the pit entry there. If that was just tire lockup or what was going on there. Let's take a look back here, see if we can't see what the deal was for Brandon Feeney. We're going to take a top-down look at things here. We see Feeney coming in a little bit hot. That's when we see the brake smokes come out and contact. That looks like the 74 of Jeremy Morrow that got into the rear end of him. Back up the front of things, we have a driver off the speedway. That is the 50 of Sam Swope off the track. Green flag continuing to stay out. Race control doesn't want to throw a caution for that. Looks like we also might have had issues with Jason Gardner going off the speedway as well. Let's take a quick look back, see if we can get a replay of what's going on there. Looks like this is on pit exit for the 93 of Jason Gardner. So far, so good. And there's some grass. And he comes back on the track. No harm, no foul there. But then what happens to Sam Swope? Coming back out on the speedway, and oh, net code there. With that looked like Nico Morelli. But that was entirely a netcode incident that caused that spin, and the green flag still remains to stay out as we see, looks like the next group of drivers starting to make their pit stops here. Charles Jettings, Mike Moultrie Jr., Nick Fuller, all working their way back out onto the speedway. Tyler Aspinall also coming down in this pack as well. Just behind you can see the leaders start to come up as we have another driver having a little bit of incident off the track. That's Nick Fuller getting down into the grass. He's A-okay though. A little bit of a tire dip, no harm, no foul for the number 10 machine. No one's spinning out at the very least. But it looks like that lead pack not going to be able to get back in front of the drivers that are already pitted. So it's going to be Will Reichard, Garrett Streets, your front row. As we get to 14 to go, going to be 13 as we cross the line. David Sluiter up here as well, Tyler Aspinall. This whole pack up at the front of the field. And it looks like a 2-second gap back from Charles Jettings, Benjamin Harsty, Kevin West, Matt Sisler, Carl Felver. It's looking like potentially we had some penalties on pit lane. I don't know that for sure, but we had a couple of drivers drop way further down the standings than it looks like they should have from their green flag stops there. Jason Gardner currently all the way back in 18th right now. As we see Johnny Bell potentially coming down pit lane again as well. Green flag pit stops with 27 cars. I don't think most of the Oval Series drivers were quite mentally or emotionally prepared for that, but it worked out for these four as they battle 2 by 2 with 13, make it 12 actually, laps left to go. Will Reichard, rookie driver here. Garrett Streets, last season's champion. David Sluiter, a regular driver from season 7 and 8 who took a hiatus for a couple seasons, coming back here. And then Benjamin Harsty back in 4th. A driver that took home the championship back in season number 2. Now coming out here again in a completely different style of car to show he still has what it takes to compete with the rest. Now we see the main pack starting to catch back up here. There's the 09 of Benjamin Harsty trying to make a move to the high line. It's not going to work. We are 3 wide for the lead here at Daytona. Garrett Streets Will Reichard, David Sluiter. They immediately go back to 2x2. They realize that might have just not been a great idea. We have another driver off the track. Brandon Lenz is off the speedway. He's around on pit lane. Green flag still up in the air as he comes down to make his stop. It wouldn't be the last couple of laps here at Daytona without a little bit of drama, and drama is exactly what we are getting here. 2x2. Looks like your top, call it about top 10 are all within a pack here. The rest of the field's kind of fanned out from the green flag pit stops. A couple lap cars also in the mix here as well. Nico Morelli in here. With 10 to go, it's going to be Garrett Street's Will Reichard leading their respective lines. Getting a little wobbly here going down into turns 1 and 2. Hold on to it, boys. You still got 10 to go. Call it about 25 miles of competition. There is the 188 coming out of pit lane. That's Joshua Rudolph, who had that little bit of spin down on pit lane. Coming back out on the track. No harm, no foul there. Everyone's keeping their cars pointed in the right direction. And frankly, here at Daytona, that is half of the battle just like that. As we have potentially 2 more drivers making the call to come down pit lane. That looks like Garrett Streets locking up, getting in the grass. And David Sluiter also coming down with him. So that might just be the end of the race for these 2 drivers. I don't think they're going to be able to catch back up to the pack without a caution flag flying. That now leaves it as Will Reichard and Kevin West as your 2 front runners, then side by side for Carl Felver and Benjamin Harsty. Felver kind of locked out on the high line all by himself. They're not going to give him a gap to get back down there. Sure enough, he manages to find one and rank back in, so nothing too terrible for that 16 machine, but if he didn't do it right then, right there, it could have been very bad for him. He could have been falling all the way back to 10th or 11th there. A little bit further back, Nick Fuller, Mike Moultrie Jr. have fallen away from the pack. They are now just both running by themselves here. But still a good deal of drivers on the lead lap for the time being. If the caution flag were to come out, it would rack everyone back up, so not everyone is as out of this as it seems like they are. Currently, Coy Haslew in the 87 is the first car a lap down, so he would be getting the lucky dog if that were to happen. Now it'd leave us with 17 drivers on the lead lap, excuse me. Now we see Tyler Aspinall, the driver, leading the outside line with the 17. Just behind that's Daniel Wild, the driver we've not talked about all that much of this evening. Charles Jettings is back up in the mix as well in the Veterans TV, number 96, driver out of South Carolina. Only 7 laps left to go here. I'd imagine that we're going to start to see these drivers get a little bit less patient with each other. Especially since we're 2x2 coming up on some cars just now coming out of pit lane. That's a little bit of a sketchy place to find yourself in. But they're committed to it. We don't see everyone filing down to the bottom single file like we saw last time around in this situation. So just got to hope everyone minds their P's and Q's here with 6 to go. And maybe, just maybe, everything will end up a-okay for these drivers. Now the bottom screen, you just saw Brandon Lenz coming out of pit lane. Brandon scored back in the 23rd position. Go up +4 from where he qualified here this evening. And there are your lapped cars, or at least the lapped cars to be. We are still running 2x2 for the race lead. Let's just send it 3 wide here at Daytona. Why not? Might as well. They have a bit of a scrape against the outside wall for the 29 of Tyler Aspinall. That was a little bit scary. And he's going to lose a ton of ground to this lead pack now as he gets stuck behind some of his lapped cars. Everyone really just trying to make any sort of line work here with 5 laps to go. We see Kevin West, Carl Felver, and Will Reichard break away here just a little bit, using that lap traffic to build just the tiniest little bit of a gap, only about half of a second, but that half a second might be all they need here only 4.5 more laps around this circuit before we crown ourselves a winner. That really could be all it takes. To the back here, Tyler Aspinall, Charles Jettings, Benjamin Harsty, Matt Sisler, all part of this pack. Mike Moultrie also looks like he might be a part of it as well. I'll tell you what, these drivers are looking like they might be just trying to keep it green all the way to the end of this race. And the two drivers that I'm most concerned about here, Kevin West, Carl Felber. You know how it goes at Daytona. One bad push in the final couple of laps and everything comes falling apart. Another lap car up there just ahead, I believe. That might have been Coy Haslew. I'm not 100% sure on that. 4 to go here at Daytona. Really more like 3.5 as we go down into turns 3 and 4. No, that is the 15 of Garrett Streets. Streets going to keep it down on the bottom. 3 wide once again here at Daytona with the lapped car. And we see the 16 of Carl Felver. Might just be able to get the push he needs to get up to the front of this race. Getting pushed by the Amp Energy 29 of Tyler Aspinall. Excuse me, no, that is the 17 of Daniel Wiles. Pushing that 16 up to the front. It is neck and neck. Heading down to turns 3 and 4 once again, getting ready to get the 2 to go signal from the flagman. Things are getting feisty here at Daytona. I'm starting to get a little bit worried for these drivers' personal safety. We can see that 17 all over the rear bumper of Carl Felver there. Just behind the 09 of Benjamin Harsty is still in this battle as well as Charles Jettings, Matt Sisler. Looks like really the field is just starting to bunch back together here. That gaggle of lap cars slowed the pack up enough to let a couple more people to catch up into here. So all the way back to 8th involved in this lead pack with Matt Sisler. Then it's going to be Nick Fuller about 5 seconds back here, and Fuller's actually going to be bringing it down to pit lane, it looks like. 2 to go, and white flag up the air from the flagman. No chance of a caution flag coming out at this rate. If you get wrecked, then you're just out of luck at this rate. Here on iRacing.com, the caution flag cannot fly after the white flag, so hold on to your seatbelts, race fans. Things could be getting very dicey here very quickly, especially as we start coming up on more lap traffic here down on the bottom side of the speedway. It's Carl Felver currently leading the field on the bottom. Kevin West up on the high line. Who is it going to be in this drag race to the finish? It looks like the inside line has the momentum, but there's those lap cars just in front right as we come to the checkered flag. A little bit of eating, a little bit of banking. It's going to be Carl Felver at the line that makes it happen. 4 wide at Daytona, and everyone manages to keep it clean across the start-finish line. What a finish here at Daytona. What a way to open up the season for what is the biggest race the ASRC Oval Series has ever held, for the biggest season the ASRC Oval Series has ever held. And through it all, it's going to be Carl Felver that takes home his first win here in the ASRC Oval Series and sets himself off on the right foot to potentially be taking home a championship in 12 weeks and potentially taking home a championship in 36 weeks. Looking out at the rest of the podium, looks like Daniel Wiles is going to be taking it home back in second, with Kevin West being scored back in third. Oh, we take a look back here. Get another view of this finish. As Carl Felver leads his way up to the front, break it out into slow motion. Get a look back at that win to cap things off here at Daytona. Really, anyone in those top 6 could have made it happen here. And I'll tell you what, that 38 of Brandon Feeney and the 20 of Christopher Puff are really lucky that they weren't about 5 seconds further behind there. Carl Felver gets it done here at Daytona. And don't go anywhere, race fans. We'll be back here in just a moment with some words with your top 3 finishers here this evening. Alrighty, race fans, welcome back to Daytona. Welcome back to the Attrition Sim Race Campus Oval Series presented by SM Racing Products. The biggest season in league history, kicked off by the biggest race in league history, and it is none other than Mr. Carl Felver that takes home the win here this evening. How are you feeling here tonight?
Feeling great. How about you?
I'm exhausted. Y'all y'all aren't allowed to run me out of breath like that. That was one heck of a race.
Yeah, the finish was pretty interesting there. I was thinking the lap cars are actually gonna hurt me down the backstretch and coming through 1 and 2, but I think they actually saved me in the end, getting that little extra draft off of them, and it's probably definitely exciting being 3 wide across the line, but glad we could bring it home P1 and looking forward to next week and the rest of the season. Hopefully we can put a good one together and compete for the championship.
Yes, sir. It looked for a second there like maybe if they were probably about a second slower, that would have ended in disaster, but it managed to work out for you. If I'm not mistaken, this is your first race here in the league, right?
I ran a couple late model races a couple seasons back, maybe a year ago, but this is one of my first, probably my third or so.
Good deal. Well, great to see you having such a solid run here in the early goings of things. I guess the big question, I know it's probably a little bit too early to say, but what do you think your chances are of taking home a championship both here in the next 12 weeks and in this overall 36-week season?
Well, if we're gonna be realistic, I have no idea. Most of the people in here I've not raced against very often, so I gotta learn some of the tricks of the trade with the Gen 4, and then learn how everyone races in here, and learn some of the, just that with racing around everyone else, and we'll see if we can be near the front coming down the stretch and make a charge for it at the end.
Fair enough. We got a long season left to go. I guess the other big question then is coming into tonight's race, it looks like you started back in fourth, so pretty solid qualifying position. Did you think you were going to win this race when you came into it tonight?
I mean, I knew I had a shot. It's Daytona. Everyone's got a shot. If you can keep it together, you got a really good chance at it. And I was just trying to help push Coy around the top there to start and see what we could do. If we could keep it up front, we were just going to stay up front. And then I ended up having to breathe some air to the front. I was getting hot around lap 6 or 7 or something, and ended up touching the wall and just kind of dropped back. And it ended up working out for me, and everything cleared, and there we were. So yeah, I mean, obviously we knew we had a chance being Daytona, but I wasn't expecting to win. I guess we were just hoping for a top 5.
Fair enough. Certainly a heck of a run for you here this evening. Next week, heading to a track that I don't think the Oval Series has ever been to in league history, heading on over to Rockingham. Do you think that's a track you could potentially be walking away with another solid finish?
Well, I guess we'll find out next week. Rockingham's typically not a good track for me. I'm not the greatest at saving tires, especially coming off turn 2 there. So we will learn a lot in the first 30, 40 laps of that race, and we'll make our assessment from there and see what we can pull off.
Good deal. That sounds like a solid plan to me. For now, though, I won't keep you here all night. I know you got a win to go and celebrate, but the microphone is all yours, Mr. Felver. Who do you want to thank for making things happen here tonight?
Obviously, I want to thank the league organizers for putting this all together, letting us come have fun together, and then you for broadcasting, teammates that I had in the race, Coy and Dave. They were a lot of help when we had them, and they kind of had some unfortunate luck there, but yeah, mostly just looking forward to a good season.
Good deal. Well, thank you for coming out. Congratulations on taking home the win, and I look forward to seeing you next week at Rockingham.
Same, thank you.
Fishing back up here in position number 2, another driver making one of their first starts here in the ASRC Oval Series, Mr. Daniel Wiles. How are you feeling here this evening?
Doing pretty good, man. How are you?
It's like I said, I'm out of breath. That was exhausting. That was a ton of fun, but gosh, y'all need to stop having such exciting racing for 5 seconds so I can breathe.
Oh no, that was some good racing there at the end. I really going into this being the legacy. I thought it was going to be a wreck fest, but after that one incident, everybody kind of calmed down, and man, that was some good racing there at the end.
Yeah, definitely a heck of a run for you here tonight, starting outside the top 10 here. And speaking of that incident, though, I do have to wonder, because from my perspective, half the field disappeared. So I'm not sure if I happened to blink out while the wreck happened or if there was something wrong, like server side, if y'all know anything about what happened down there.
Oh no, we seen everything. Everybody got checked up except for one or two people from behind, and just kind of gaggled everybody up. And I did get hit on the right hand side, but I only had about 50 seconds of damage, so obviously it wasn't too bad. Hanging out in the back didn't work out too much like we wanted it to.
Fair enough. I mean, caution flag, little bit of damage. Evidently, it still worked out for you to walk away with the podium tonight, one way or another. I guess the big question is, despite all the hardships you had here tonight, what do you think might have had to go different in those last couple laps for you to be taking home the checkered flag?
Um, I shouldn't have made the move down to the bottom when I did, but once you get down there, I even said to my teammates, they were on the top side. I told them, I was saying, I'm going to be on the 26th bumper. I'm not going to let off. I mean, there's no point in even trying to pass on the bottom. The only way you could pass is on the top. So I was going to stick it with him, and then I seen him move up, but I had no help from behind. So at least we were able to pull out the second place finish.
Yeah, definitely a really solid start going into the early goings of this season. Do you think you'll be able to take that momentum and keep it going with you at Rockingham next week?
I hope. We've already done some testing at Rockingham, and I don't know what the temperature is for the server that we're going to be in, but I know the temperature that we were at. It's going to be wild. It's going to be a wild race. But we've ran there before. Me and another teammate ran there before in the league, so it can produce some pretty good racing. So we'll see.
Good deal. Seems like a solid enough plan to me. I've got no idea because I don't think the league has ever been to Rockingham, so it's going to be a little bit of a new experience for everyone here in ASRC. But tonight, you managed to walk away with a podium. Before I let you go and get yourself ready for Rockingham, who do you want to thank for making everything happen here tonight?
Thank you in the booth for the broadcast. The admins, they've been putting this league at least the Gen 4s. I think this is the first year running the Gen 4s, so it's a good turnout tonight. My teammates, Tyler, Charles, Michael, Nick, they all ran a good race. We all finished in the top 10. So, yeah, my wife and kids, and that's about it.
Good deal. Well, thank you for coming out. Congratulations on the podium here tonight, and I look forward to seeing you next week.
All right, man. Appreciate it.
And rounding out the podium here this evening, in probably one of the brightest looking cars out there that caught my eye as soon as practice started, it's going to be none other than Mr. Kevin West, another driver pretty much making his debut in the league here tonight. How are you feeling? Oh, well, might be having a little bit of technical difficulties there. Oh, there we go.
Me.
Now I can hear you. How you
All
doing
right.
this evening?
I'm doing good. Like I was saying, I'd be doing better if I was in victory lane, but start out the season with a third place at Daytona, where anything can happen. I mean, can't really complain with that.
Yeah, I mean, you put on a very dominant run all night here this evening. I thought you were definitely up there as one of the drivers to have this here in the bag tonight. What do you think might have had to have gone different for you to be taking home that checkered flag? Well, we might be having technical difficulties here again.
Got me, sir?
Oh, yes, sir. There we go.
My bad. Um, I lost a little bit of my push there coming off of turn 2, and that allowed the 16 to clear me going into turn 3. And when the bottom line clears you, and they can come up and kind of block you off turn 4, I pretty much knew that was it. But still happy with the run. Um, Looking forward to going to some different tracks that take a little bit more skill. I think we'll be able to. I mean, I'm not going to say we're going to embarrass them next week, but we might put a whooping on them.
Fair enough. I like the enthusiasm. It sounds like Rockingham's a track you got a lot of experience with.
It's one of my better tracks, and Gen 4 is my bread and butter. So I'm looking forward to the season. It's going to be a good one.
Good deal. Well, I certainly look forward to seeing y'all out here again. This is the biggest turnout the league has ever had in its 14 seasons of competition. So, of course, a big thank y'all to all of y'all who came out here for tonight's event. It has been a heck of a show. Of course, that said, though, before I let you go here for this evening, who do you want to thank for putting this run together for you here tonight?
Well, I want to thank the admins for having me this season. Thank you for putting on the show on YouTube. I just want to thank everyone watching on TikTok. I usually live stream on TikTok when I'm racing. So if anyone wants to go follow me at Trailer Park Dude on TikTok, I'd appreciate that.
Good deal. I didn't even know you could live stream on TikTok. You learn something new every day.
Yeah, it's a good time, man. Come check it out sometime.
Good deal. That said, though, thank you for coming out here tonight. I look forward to seeing you three all at Rockingham next week.
All right. See you next week.
Later.
You heard it here first, race fans. Your top three finishers here this evening. Carl Felver, Daniel Wiles, Kevin West here tonight. But of course, those were not the only drivers out here in tonight's field. It was only the biggest race that the ASRC Oval Series has ever had in its history. So how about we take a look down and see how the rest of the point standings shook out here tonight. Back in position number 4 in the 67 machine, that's going to be Will Reichard, followed by Benjamin Harsty in the 09, rounding out the top 5 here. Back in 6th, going to be the 29 of Tyler Aspinall, followed by Charles Jettings, Matt Sisler, Nick Fuller, and Mike Moultrie Jr., your top 10 here this evening. 11th, going to go back to the 93 of Jason Gardner, followed by Brandon Feeney back in 12th. Christopher Puff in the 20 machine back in 13th, with Jeremy Morrow and Sam Swope back in 14th and 15th. 16th going to go back to David Sluter, followed by Coy Hasselou in 17th, Michael Sparks in 18th. 19th going back to the 15 of Garrett Streets, with Joshua Rudolph in the 188, rounding out the 20th position here this evening. Back in 21st, it's going to be the 78 of Derek Murphy, followed by Brandon Lenz back in 22nd. Then back in 23rd, going to be the 27 of Johnny Bell, making that surprise appearance here this evening. And Johnny, I hate to say it, but you get the title of being the first driver in the league to ever finish in the 23rd position. I don't know if that's something to celebrate or not, but it is a fact. And that same goes for the Nico Morelli back in 24th, Poncho McDowell back in 25th, Corey Logan 26th, and Daniel Sparks in 27th. All those drivers had the honor of being the first drivers in the league to ever finish from 23rd on back to 27th. So it's been a heck of a run here tonight. It's been an amazing turnout, more than even I expected here for season number 14. So I'm really excited to see how things are going to be shaking up for the rest of the season of competition. Starting off with next week, same day, same time, Monday nights at 10 p.m. Eastern at the Rockingham Speedway over in North Carolina. Bound to be one heck of a show. That said, thank you all for tuning in here this evening. It has been a heck of a ride.